This one is working. All right, let's get started. Thank you everybody for coming to the Melbourne City FC Member Forum. So just to give you a bit of information on how tonight's going to look. So there was a request that went out for a submission of questions, of which fans were able to send in and submit their own. We've gathered a number of those questions and we're going to ask our panellists here tonight for about the first 25 to 30 minutes. Once we then do that, there'll be the opportunity for members, attending members in the audience to ask questions of the panel as well. So we'll start off with a few of those submitted questions to Brad, Michael, Scott and Patrick, and then from there we'll be able to ask the audience. So we'll open up with one that has been a pretty popular question, and it's for you, Brad. And it's just regarding the move from the training base to Casey Fields in the southeast. So there's a concern from some fans in the north and the western suburbs of Melbourne that the club is effectively abandoning them and will move its home matches from AAMI Park to a new stadium in Dandenong in the future. Can you share the club's short, medium and long-term plans, and also give some background on how the move to the southeast came about?
Sure, sharing the microphone. No, that's it. So all these questions that came back, so we actually got to see there's hundreds of questions, and I think this one was definitely 50% of them was around this question. So I guess one of the things to give you some history and genesis. First of all, I should say that for those of you who don't know me, I'm the CEO of the club. I've been with the club since its inception as Melbourne Heart. Used to head up commercial operations, and only more recently have been in the role at Melbourne City as a CEO role for, I guess, 18 months now. So it's been a great induction in the role with COVID coming on, all the challenges that presented. It's been very interesting, but it's been a significant time of change for the club, and most of it has been navigating COVID. But it's also come at a time when most of you know that we have had a 10-year relationship with La Trobe University. It's been a fantastic partnership. La Trobe has been a partnership that you can only dream of in sport, because it's more than just a financial transaction. We have been integrated and ingrained with each other right from the very beginning. So we have now a third of our workforce, 30% of our workforce actually comes from La Trobe interns that spent time with us while they were doing their undergraduate study, have ended up doing work with us on a volunteer basis or on a match day, and now actually have jobs with Nikki Drost over there, who's in our corporate team. She's a graduate from La Trobe University. And also we had a fantastic program, and still do have a fantastic program with La Trobe in terms of master's students doing research, and we get them very much involved with the football department. Michael very much involved with our sports science and those sorts of things. So we get a lot of top flight, world-class leading research and insights that come from their involvement with the club. So they've been a fantastic partner, and we continue that partnership. But the issue was that we had a situation where we were coming to the end of our lease, and we had to look at the next 30-year lease with La Trobe University, and it's been absolutely incredible. We have a fantastic pitch. Has anyone been out to our facility there, understand it? So our main tablet, our main pitch there is actually one of the best in the Southern Hemisphere. It's absolutely fantastic. It's world class. The other pitches we use, we call the lower playing fields. They're on a shared basis, so we use those with the rest of the university, and that has become more of a challenge as we've grown our academy. And we have obviously a women's team has been involved now for a few years, but getting access to pitches has become more and more difficult. We had been talking to La Trobe for a long period of time, and as I said, a fantastic relationship, and we realised for us to get to the size we need to be, we have aspirations to have, it's not the biggest, we want to have the best academy, certainly in Australia, and if not the Southern Hemisphere. And to do that, ultimately we'll need to get lots of other age groups, young boys and girls, into our programs over the years. we ultimately will need about 6 pitches. So we need a mix of synthetic pitches and grass pitches, and there just wasn't going to be the space at Latrobe to do it. So for some time, we've been sort of keeping an eye out to see if there was another opportunity that presents itself. And this one we found out at Casey it already has 4 pitches that have already been built there and established. So there's a turf pitch, there's a grass pitch, and 3 synthetic pitches already there. And part of the plan is that there'd be an elite exclusive area for the A-League team, and then another grass pitch that is part of that as well. So ultimately give us the 6 pitches. What it does, it gives the club some sort of security and tenure, and security of having pitches into that 30-year period, which is really important for us, because at Latrobe we're ultimately going to have to go and do relationships with other clubs or find other venues where we could do some of that. And it meant that for Michael and the guys, they're having to hop in cars to go to, and our players go to other venues to do some of that training. So so that's number one. It's all about, for us, is we want to have the best facility. It all starts, this is part of the City Football Group as well, is it all starts with having the best quality facilities. And what that means is we can get the best outcomes in terms of production of talent. So we want to attract the best young boys and girls to our academy, and we want to develop them to ultimately play with us, or give them a chance to have a springboard into Europe and other football markets. So to do that over the next 30 years, we really need to look at aspirationally at a facility that would do that, and that certainly does that down the southeast. So for us, there's lots of speculation about this one. For us, it's all about the football. Ultimately, what we want to do is be able to have the best facilities we can possibly get for our A-League, for our W-League, for our NPL, NYL, all our juniors and academies, so that we can actually ultimately end up having the best talent, the best team, and an outcome. So really what it is we want to get the best outcome in terms of results for our fans and members, and that's how we think we can do it. There's a couple of ones probably to dispel with that as well. There's been, I can see there's lots of confusion about talk of building a stadium at Casey Fields, and that's absolutely not true at all. There is the opportunity for us to, as I said, there's a final pitch, a 6th pitch we want to get built there. That will have a maximum capacity of about 2,000 people, and what that will be is to have a home base for our W League, to literally walk out of the change rooms and go and play home games right there, walk out the tunnel and they play the games. Same with our NYL and NPL team, and it would very much be similar to some of the W League venues we've been playing around Melbourne, but it means we have a proper true home for our women's football team, which is something that's been really lacking. So so you may have heard, that is actually called, internally we call that a show pitch, but externally it's been called a mini stadium. So it's a mini stadium, but 2,000 people, potentially maximum. If we can get some more funding from government or something, it might go to 3,000 or 4,000, but it's certainly not a venue where we're going to be playing football out of A-League. So I just wanted to sort of clear that one up as well.
Awesome, thanks Brad. So as a follow-up from that question as well, how do you feel the move will benefit the growth of the club's membership base? And are you able to maybe tell us a little bit about how our membership base is segmented at the moment, in particular with the amount that's in the southeast?
Yeah, sure. It's an interesting one. As I said before, having been with Melbourne Heart since its inception, so when we first went to market as Melbourne Heart, we had to look at what territory, what geography that Melbourne Victory already had, and because they were first to market, they had fans scattered everywhere. So there was no real predominant hotspot. They were scattered everywhere. So we got access to that sort of information when we first started the club. And really it was up for us. We could try and put a hand up to try and own a territory. We didn't. We felt we want to be, Melbourne Heart at the time. We wanted to be part of the city. We want to look at the urban fringe and try and develop fans and memberships from all over Melbourne. And so that was our strategy as well. We weren't, people argue, weren't you tripping over each other? And I guess if you went back into it all from the start, if both teams, Victory and Heart, started together at the same time, maybe you might do it differently and target zones. But that was the strategy at the time, was to very much to focus on the whole of Melbourne. What's happened over time is they have some hot spots. We have some hot spots. Certainly, we have, if you look at a heat map of where our members are, we have a lot in the north, and right down sort of in the city fringe. We have a lot sort of around that Richmond area. We have a whole lot in the southeast, in areas as, the Aspendale, Chelsea Bay side, all there, right through up to Ringwood, all that sort of area. And we do have a lot of fans and members also right down stretching through the Mornington Peninsula out to Gippsland and everything as well. That hasn't been by design, it's just the way it is. We remember looking a couple of years ago at our heat map, and again, we have fans everywhere. We have a lot of fans also over the Westgate Bridge and around Werribee and Point Cook and those sorts of areas as well. So for us, this move, as I said before, is very much about having a facility that sets us up for success for the club for the future. I guess it's what we want to do is make sure that we are not, we keep hearing this one about abandoning our fans in the north and the west, and that's absolutely not true at all. We have, it takes a long time to develop hardcore, long-term fans like all of you taking the time to come here tonight, and there's no way we're going to turn our back on people being involved with the club for a long period of time. There's absolutely no way. It's our community programs. We have programs all over Melbourne. That's our not-for-profit separate entity, and that has programs all over the place, and we will continue to do those all over the place. We will continue to work with our fans and engage with local grassroots clubs in all those areas. What the Southeast is just, I think particularly when Team 11 didn't get up and get that opportunity, we all realised that in a football community, what an incredible opportunity if someone taps into that in a greater way. And, at the end of the day, there's only one professional sporting team really out there. There's a basketball team in Knox. If you look at this area, there's a lot of competition with sporting clubs all trying to get public in terms of coming to follow their sport. It's been one of the fastest growing demographics in the last 10 years consistently, and probably the key thing is football, the round ball game that we all love, is the number one sport, and it's incredibly multicultural. So yes, we want to try and tap into that. It means what we'll do is, it's not taking anything away from what we're currently doing in the areas we're currently servicing. All it means is we'll spend some more time looking at that area. Going back to the question, yes, we have a lot of fans in that area, but it hasn't been by design. It's just been, as I said before, the way we've gone to market as Melbourne Heart originally. The fans are kind of sort of spread out geographically everywhere.
Thanks, Brad. All right, so another question that we got quite a bit of feedback surrounding, and I'm going to throw this down to Scott and Paddy. I'll start with you, Scott, and then we'll hand off to Paddy after that. And it's last season we had the worst disciplinary record in the league, and this season we've seen a few additional cards crop up in our first two games. Do you see this as a record, as a reason for concern, or a product of our aggressive pressing style as a group? Do you feel any changes are necessary?
So obviously it's something that's I guess happened. I guess when you bring it up now, the Delbridge instance. Going off last week's incident, for me it was very poor. I take full responsibility of that by the actions that I made. Not so much the second yellow, but the first one was really stupid of me engaging in a running war with the referee at the time. But I think it's more of an individual thing. I certainly think, in my case, it was nothing to do with tactics. It was nothing to do with any instructions. It was based solely on, an incident and stupidity from me and a lapse of concentration. Going back from last year, there was nothing to do with tactics in regards to the way we, received red cards as such, and it's definitely not the case this year. As individuals, we need to be better, and that starts with me. I feel harsh for Luna, because I think in the first game it probably wasn't a reflection of the card, the tackle, but like I said, you know, it's solely down to, I believe, individuals, and you know, the buck stops with me, and ultimately I let down, you know, first and foremost the team, you know, the staff, but also the members. So it's something that, you know, I think close to 300 games I never had a red card, and it's, you know, something I never want to have again, you know, being in the position that's put me in now. So to answer your question in a flat way, it's an individual thing, and it's something that myself and the players previous to me have to be better with.
Yeah, look, I think last year's last year, to be honest with you. You know, we go out there to fight for everything, and sometimes you might get booked, sometimes you don't. Last week, I think, with Luna was harsh. I think even with Scott's first one was harsh, but you know, we're competitors, and you know, we want to do the best, or the players want to do the best for the team, and the players want to do the best for the members. If you didn't see the players trying, then it'd be another conversation and it'd be another question. But you see the players giving everything they can to win for you guys and for the club. And as part of football, you do get discipline. I got booked so many times as a player, sent off. It's part and parcel. You don't mean to do it. It's just that competitive nature that you have. So, you know, yellow cards are part of the game. Red cards are part of the game. The players don't go out there on purpose to get booked or to, you know, to make, you know, bad fouls. You know, they're just competitive, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But I won't be telling them to stop doing what they're doing, because then I'll be taking away things out of their game that, you know, they've probably grown up with.
All right, thanks, Scott and Paddy. Okay, so we'll move along now, and I've got a question for you, Michael. So now that we've qualified for the Asian Champions League for the first time, what steps have the club taken to adapt to the change in schedule with an extra competition in the calendar, along with the impacts of COVID-19? Has this changed our recruitment strategy at all?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Gave me a good question. At this point in time, we still don't know for sure what the schedule is for the Champions League. Originally, we were supposed to play our qualifying games at the end of this month. Win the first one, play the second, and then win that one, and we go to the group stage. But now that's being postponed. There's some talk about possibly a couple of games in April, but and Brad's been in more conversation at CEO level than what I have. But at the moment, what they're suggesting is going to make it very, very difficult for us. We may have to quarantine for 2 weeks going away, and then 2 weeks when we come back. So we're taking, you know, 4 to 5 weeks out of, in the week that we play, 4 or 5 weeks out of a season that's already super compressed with so many games towards the back end, particularly now that we've had so many delays at the front end. So it's something that we're going to have to negotiate through with the clubs and with the FA and the AFC to see what is the best outcome. So at the moment, nothing's really been put into place, Matt. In terms of recruiting, part of the strategy was to bring in an Asian player. Obviously, we had Supaki, and that wasn't only just because of Champions League. It was to also, you know, have that connection with Yokohama, and hopefully he's the first of many players that come through from that club to us. I think we've seen it training, and Paddy and Scotty can see that, you know, high technical quality of Sabaki and the boys that come through from Japan normally are like that. But look, I've been involved in 5 Champions League campaigns previously at Adelaide, and Scott's been involved at one where we made the final, so we know what to expect. We know what to expect, so we'll speak with the coaches and the medical and sports science staff once we know what the actual schedule is, but look, we've been very adaptive. We've shown we went to a hub. We coped with it really well, and there's no reason to think that we can't cope with, you know, late notice and short turnaround of games, or even a hub situation going forward with the Champions League.
Thanks, Michael. Okay, so we've also got a question here for Paddy. So, sorry. Having taken over the management job after a season of great progress under Eric Mombatz, what did you personally identify as the most important areas of our game to improve upon in our pursuit of our first championship?
I think, first of all, I think we've added improvement in terms of plays. I think the players that have signed for us this year are probably better than the players that we sort of had last year, and that's no disrespect to the players from last year, but our recruitment's been really good, so we've added that quality. Also, I think that the style, it's continuing what sort of Eric has taught myself, the club and the players, and trying to improve that style as much as we can, because it's such a difficult style to learn, but if we could keep improving, it makes it, A, harder for the opposition, but B, it's better for us as we keep learning it. So I think the football style and performance is really important for myself, the club, because it's an identity, and the players. I still speak to Eric, like probably 3-4 times a week. It's crazy how much we speak, and he still asks for things, and he still gives me homework, and so you're ever trying to develop, the style and develop yourself as a coach, and develop the players just to improve, maybe 1 or 2%. And if we can do that, over time, that all adds up.
Thanks, Paddy. It sort of feeds nicely into the next question. So obviously we've been part of Melbourne City and Melbourne Heart for such a very long time, developing via the club, in the youth teams and the women's team. You talk about your close relationship with Eric. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the people involved with Melbourne City and the City Football Group overall who have had the largest impact on your career?
Look, obviously I started with the under-20s, and I think Michael had been in the club maybe 2 years. I think when I retired, he was there. So Michael was obviously, first and foremost, a big person that I looked up to, and credit to him that, he's seen my journey develop from under-20s, to the W League, and now to the first team. Obviously, Eric, like you said, I speak to him I reckon more than my wife sometimes, it's crazy, but we've got such a unique, it's sometimes not a bad thing, yeah? We've got such a unique relationship that, when we talk, it's football, we talk personal things, it's something that you can ask a question, relate to, you can ask for advice. It might be something as, I miss you, sort of, so I can call on Eric, sort of any time I want, to ask for anything or that I'm thinking of that I need. Obviously, I think Brian Marwood for the City Football Group has been a part of that journey. He's known me since a player, since the under-20s, and I think the club in general have really made a pathway, or tried to create a pathway for me to be better as a player, a person, a coach, and they've created this opportunity for me. So look, I'm very grateful and very humble, because without them, who knows where I would be. That's why, we talk about Casey, but that's why this club's the best club in Australia, because it creates the pathway for kids and players and coaches to be better and to gain a career in something that they love, and the opportunity. There's so many kids that want to be professional footballers, so many coaches like myself eventually want to, be in the big leagues one day, be one of the best coaches in the world, and I'm sure Scott can say he wants to be something in his career with football, but there's no other club that can offer that besides here. So I'm very grateful to be given the opportunity, and very grateful that for the people that I've met along the way that have helped me, come this far.
Thanks, Paddy. Okay, so I've got another one. So this one sort of shared between Brad and Michael, and I'll outline the question, then I'll pass it over to prevent the back and forth and make it a bit easier. So Brad, first of all, with the establishment of the APL, what are some of Melbourne City's short to long-term goals in relation to the separation from Football Australia? What processes or strategies are made easier by the club being independent? And then for Michael, following on from that question, how does the club feel about the potential discussion around things like the abolishment of a salary cap and transfer fees being allowed between clubs in relation to that split from the FA?
Thanks, mate. Yeah, it's an interesting one. So one of the things that City Football Group realised when they came in trying to understand the ecosystem of the A-League was that they purchased us but didn't really own much. So the way it was set up originally was that, and I can understand why that was done in the A-League's inception with the Lowers when they first set up, and I think it was probably the right way to do it, but there was a period in time when the league was established that needed to allow clubs to be masters of their own destiny. So what we previously had was we owned a participation agreement, and that was about it. So every dollar you spend and all the things that you do as a club to try and invest and grow and build equity and value in the organisation is very, very difficult to do. So I can't for the life of me see why any owners would have, if you've hard-earned money, would go and put it into A-League how it was. So what this does, this unbundling, and it's a crazy word, I've never used that word before in my life until the last few months, but what unbundling does is allows us to take ownership of our IP, our logo and all those sorts of things. It gives us a far greater say into our own destiny and decisions and what we do. For example, previously a situation was things like, I come from the commercial world originally, all our signage out here, for example, we only had 51% of that inventory, and FFA at the time had the other 49% of it. So that really limits your commercial opportunities for the club to go and get partners and sponsors and commercialise that. So part of all this unbundling is we get all those sorts of things come back where they belong into the actual clubs, and we actually start to make more strategic long-term decisions and create value in the club. So we think what this will do is will attract a whole different breed and level of potential overseas investors in the future, where local investors, where they actually look at it as going, well, we actually could purchase the club for this price, and if we really did as well and invest in the right people and the right programs and infrastructure and all those sorts of things, they can actually create value and potentially not be losing money hand over fist, but actually creating an asset. So, and what happens when you start to get that value proposition is the value of those licenses increase. And we saw it with our club in New York, for example. They spent $100 million to get that license. That license is now worth $300 million. So that's what happens when you create that sort of ecosystem where clubs can actually take control and create value.
There's two questions there, Matt. First one was the salary cap. I'm probably in favour of an abolishment of the salary cap at this point in time. I think the league's been around long enough. The whole salary cap was created to create competitive balance. I don't know whether it's really achieved that. And there's been an introduction of quite a few levers over the last 7 or 8 years, and I've been involved since 2005, that it has allowed clubs to spend a little bit more than other clubs. And we found over those last 5, 6, 7 years that the clubs that are pulling those levers are the clubs that are normally at the top of the table. But if we take COVID out of the equation right now, because it's a difficult financial period for all sports and all clubs, I think going forward it's something that we do need to look at. But we can't just abolish the salary cap in isolation. There's got to be other incentives put into place, other mechanisms put into place to, first of all, protect some of the clubs that maybe are not so financial, but also to stop clubs that are more financial to just run away with the league every year without giving those clubs, without financial backing, some sort of opportunity to be at least competitive. And some of those things include incentives for playing young players, which leads me to the other part of it, or the other question in terms of transfer fees, introducing domestic transfer fees, and other mechanisms. I think I wrote a paper that I gave to Bob, which might have gone to the FFA some time ago for consideration. But I think we're at a point in the league that we need to consider everything. We need to look at how we can improve the quality of play, the quality of players coming in. Not that it's a bad quality, but we need to keep improving. We need to define how we can get more people into the stadium, how we can get more broadcast revenue into the game, more commercial revenue into the game, and that all, for me, comes back to the product that we put on the park. Yes, I think it's time to have a look at abolishing the salary cap, but not in isolation. There's got to be some other mechanisms put into place to allow that to happen.
Thank you. Just two more, and then we'll throw out to the audience for some questions from you. So, one for you, Scott. So we've basically been seeing over the last few weeks the return of fans into the stands across the country, and I personally couldn't tell you the last time I think Melbourne City fans have been actually able to attend a game in person. So how does it feel for the players, you know, the anticipation of actually being able to play in front of fans again, and what does it mean to you personally?
Yeah, well, I think it's important to stress, as players, we understand the current climate of the world. Take away the sport mechanism, it's obviously something that's crippling the world. So, as players, you know, some have been inadvertently affected by this, which some may have been in here. But in terms of the sporting landscape and more so the football lovers that are all here today, you know, it's something I think everyone, in terms of a sporting fan, has really, you know, seen and probably took for granted the fact that live sport was something that was amazing. Having been a fan and going to watch live sport, it was always amazing, but as a player and definitely going through the hub period, it was something that, you know, really hit home that, you know, it was something of importance. I've never been one to take fans for granted, and I never will be, but you know, the fact that, you know, we get the opportunity to maybe have some fans in the stadium this year is something that's is not lost on the players. You know, we definitely feel the pain of the current climate, but at the same time, if we can put some smiles on the faces in a safe way, you know, in definitely a safe way, it goes a long way. But for the players, it goes a long way. You know, seeing, you know, the city blue, the city white, red, the city black, as we all have three strips. It goes a long way. It certainly does. And for the players, you know, we played in Brisbane the first round and then Adelaide, and having their fans there, obviously against us, but at the same time it was a lift because there was fans in the crowd, there was interaction, there was atmosphere. The opportunity to play this Saturday night and then going forward, you know, will do so much for us as players, but also as a club, because we're getting back together. It's key to stress. So it's very key to make out here that, you know, we are in this together, and as players and as staff and as a club, you know, having you guys there is important as anything. So hopefully, you know, we get the amount of capacity as much as we can in a safe standing seating area with masks on. But yeah, I can't stress how good it is to have fans ultimately again.
Thanks very much, Scott. Personally, really looking forward to being back on Saturday. And just one final one before we throw to the members here for Brad. Now, we say throw to the members, and it's great to see members here tonight. And, you know, Scott touched on about the impact that COVID has had on the world. And during this, we've still seen a lot of dedicated people signing up for memberships, both last season and into this season as well. Like, how do you feel, Brad, as, I guess, a representative of the club, seeing that sort of dedication from Melbourne City fans?
I'm so glad you asked that question. Look, I think this has been such a, we recognise as a club, this has been such a tough period for everyone in the community at all walks of life. We know a lot of families, a lot of people that are individuals are doing it tough, and we are absolutely delighted and quite humbled and surprised, but absolutely overjoyed by the level of support that members have had in coming back on board after what we've, you know, the disrupted season we had and the uncertainty about the season we're in at the moment. Despite all that, we don't know what games we're playing in a month's time, and despite all that, we have had our highest level of retention of membership almost in the club's history, and that is absolutely amazing. And I just, you know, for all of you who've made the effort to come here, can't thank you deeply enough about that level of support, because it'd be very easy to walk away from it right now. We understand that, you know, it's there's other things in life that's people doing tough, and and uncertainty about jobs and kids studying at home and all those sorts of things. And despite all that, people have stuck really fat with the club, and I can't tell you how appreciative we are for that. So, and the other point, I won't keep yakking on, but I think it's a really good point, as Scott was saying before, of we're not saving lives or finding a cure to COVID, but I think what's recognised in this period where everything's shut down, grassroots sport and professional sport, is what sport does for us as an outlet and something we're passionate about and something we enjoy going to. I have 3 sons, they all play grassroots level, and one of the greatest joys we have, particularly as a father with sons, is to actually go and watch professional sport and go to games together and enjoy that. And also, I do my professional duties here, and for example, at AAMI Park on a Saturday, and I have 3 games of junior football to go and watch on a Sunday, and to have those things taken away during that COVID thing is a real shock to the system, and we are so appreciative that we're getting the opportunity to play games. It's a constant challenge. I can't tell you how many resources and people in leagues and each state we're trying to navigate through the constant border closures and all the different challenges we have before us. And we're doing our absolute darndest to make sure we can still get games on and done. We're confident we'll get there, but to close off from my end is to say thank you for every one of our members who has supported us in this environment. We understand what a crazy time it is and how easy it be to walk away, and we are so appreciative that you've stayed with us, so thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Brad, and thank you to everyone who submitted questions. We really do appreciate it, and there were some really good ones in there. So let's now reach out to the members in the audience for some questions. I'm not sure if someone wants to volunteer to carry the mic around, or I don't know how we're going to do this. A hand went up very quickly there at the back table. All right, if you can yell it out, and then I'll relay it on. Okay, so this question's relating, once the training move to Casey is finalised, what is the access like going to be for fans to take families to see training, etc.?
Yeah, great question. It's a really interesting one. So, as I mentioned before, with the move, one of the things that a lot of fans don't actually even realise currently we're out at Latrobe. A lot of fans actually think we're based here at AAMI Park. That's our training base, and so for some it was a bit of a surprise when they heard in the media that we're moving to Casey, because they thought we're actually based here. Obviously, members have been there for a long time, realise that we've been at Latrobe for 10 years and are going to Casey. One of the great things about Casey is there are literally thousands of households on the fringe of the facility, and one of the greatest things we think about the facility is it has soft edges, so any member of the community can come and walk in at any point in time. So in some regards it is a far better situation than what Latrobe currently has in the current environment. So that's something we think is very important. We want to be engaging. We want as many kids and families to come down there after school. There'll be kids that just literally jump on their BMXs and ride across to watch training. So so that's an incredible plus for us, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about, is engagement. We want as many kids running around the community all over Melbourne wearing Melbourne City not victory.
Yes, that is precisely what we want, less navy blue. Okay, who's got a question next? Hand went up very quickly there. Which is to Brad, or yeah. Yeah. Okay, so this is in relating to clinics in particular in the southeast area.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we've always, since Melbourne Heart Days and Melbourne City Days, we've always had a relationship by invitation and acceptance by local grassroots clubs to have an affiliation with the club. And in the past, we were fairly prescriptive of what that involvement would be. So sometimes it would be to go and do coach-to-coach sessions, have players go down and sign autographs, talk to kids. Often coaches would want the local coaches would want our players to talk about the discipline required and how many times, how much training you need to do to make it, and all those sorts of things. We have just gone through an exercise over the last 3-4 months, and we're still doing it, is we've been doing lots of consultation with clubs all around Melbourne from all geographies to find out actually what's most important to them. And one of the things we've found out is it's different strokes for different folks, so we probably can't have a prescriptive, here's the program you get when you engage with us. It is a bit different. The common themes are, there seems to be a real common theme is a lot of clubs want some assistance in terms of coaching methodology, or the city way, how we go about it, those sorts of things. I think all of you who are involved with grassroots football, as I certainly am, is there's often a lack of qualified coaches to coach the kids, and so what happens is dads get dragged in, they've had some sort of football background, may not have done their qualifications, but they're still coaching the kids. So we're finding that's a really big need, is to come in to actually run some programs with the kids and then do some pre and post engagement with those budding coaches to try and do that. There's still a bit of kids wanting to see their heroes. They want to see, Jamo come down and talk to them, and so there's that side of it, I think, is still important for some clubs. But they all are very, very, very different. If we have a club that says we would really, really like to get some specific goalkeeping coaching, we'll try and cater for that. So. And on top of that, we do, as I said, with our not-for-profit, we're doing a huge amount of work in all walks of life for people less privileged that have sorts of challenges. There's a lot of work we do with some of the new immigrant communities and that have just newly arrived in Australia from African communities and those sorts of areas. And football is a fantastic way for them to integrate into Australia, because it's a sport they know, and we use it as a tool to help them integrate. So there's lots of programs like that we're doing, but each engagement, what we're doing in those not-for-profit areas, are very different and tailored to a specific market, but also the engagement with the local clubs.
Fantastic, thanks for the question.
I'll come and have a chat to you afterwards, so to understand it. But yes, we are doing programs for adults. We're actually about to looking at a program at the moment with La Trobe University to actually do a diploma type program with Melbourne City and La Trobe University, which is something we're trying to get off the ground as well. So the culture piece, I'm not sure if I've answered that one, but I'll come and have a chat to you afterwards. So.
Fantastic, good stuff. Something I probably should have added right at the start is if you have a question directed to the member of the panel that you'd like to answer it as well, so I'm not just throwing the mic at poor Brad, your hand went straight up.
Now for the really juicy information.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure how much information I can give because he's about to get onto a plane in the next 24 hours, so we don't want to jeopardise any visa approvals and stuff like that, or getting into actually the visa's approved, so it's just getting into the country. But look, all I can say, and obviously Paddy's right across it as well, has been involved in looking at the player, that we think he's a player that really suits the way we want to play. He's 28, 29 years of age. He's had a great career in Europe with some really good clubs and represented his country at all underage levels, so right up until the under 23. So, really experienced player, great on the ball, aggressive, really intelligent guy, speaks really good English, really keen to come out to Australia. So we think he's going to really complement our back line and the way we play football. And you know, I'm happy for Paddy to maybe give a bit more indication as to why, you know, we've selected him.
Yeah, look, I've spoken to the player nearly every week, and he can't wait to get here. So that's already one plus. Again, when you sort of recruit people to come to this club, they've got to sort of add value. This player does, not just short term, but long term. You look at qualities on the pitch, you look at qualities off the pitch. So I think he adds both to improve. Look, our squad for short term and long term. So look, I think he's going to be a very good signing, but that's all I'm going to tell you. So you're going to have to wait, man, sorry. That's the way it is.
One thing I can add is that, again, what we've tried to do, particularly over the last 12 to 18 months, is to build some stability into the squad, which we really haven't had, you know, for a long time. And that includes the way we play football, and that's a big reason why Paddy's been appointed coach. But so this player will be here on a 3-year deal. So again, building that stability and consistency in the playing group is vital to success in the future.
Fantastic. I'm sure everyone's excited to see who it is. So, hands up on table 18. So for those on the stream, a question relating to academies and our long-term approach in that regard.
Yeah, a good question, and maybe it's something that we don't really talk about too much, but we've got boys now in our academy from 10, 11 years of age up until to 18 or 19. So this year we'll have under 14s, under 15s, under 16s, under 17s, under 19s, under 21s, and then senior NPL. And when I talk about senior NPL, so the average age of our senior NPL first 11 last year was 16.2 years of age. So it's a very young team. And we've appointed some really good coaches, some ex-players that you might know that played. Robert Willart, who's an ex-Melbourne Heart player. Jacob Larocca, ex-Melbourne City player. Cassio, who played for Adelaide United and Flamengo. So we've got some really good ex-players who also are very good coaches, but specialising in youth development. We work off the platform that's produced at Manchester City. So Rado Vilicic, who's the technical director of the academy, coaches the coaches, and the players have access to world-leading sports science, medical and coaching programs. So I agree with you, and something that I'm very passionate about, and why I spend a lot of time in developing academies. I think in the future, nothing would please me more, like Paddy started as an under-20 coach, to not only produce players but also coaches from our academy. But nothing would please me more than in 4 or 5 years' time that 6 or 7 of our starting 11 have come through our academy. And there's no reason why we can't. We've got some incredible talent, not only from within Victoria but from interstate as well, that are now joining the academy. And I think you'll see the fruits of that in the next 12 to 24 months, with players starting to come through a lot sooner than what we would expect at other places.
I'll just add to that as well. I think, as I said before, is part of the long-term strategy with the facility is that we really want to be seen as the #1 spot for aspiring young talent to come to our club, because I see it has the greatest opportunity. We also want to create that for coaches, and we think literally last night was another club we have a relationship with the City Football Group, so I think there's now 11 And we do. We think it's really an incredible opportunity for coaches coming through the system to have access and be under the noses of the City Football Group into all those markets around the world. So we actually think it's a legitimate, exciting opportunity for young coaches.
Thank you. Good question. All right, over at table 20. So a question regarding concerns over the progression of the membership base. Should I throw to you for that one, Brad? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great question. And one of the things, we've made plenty of mistakes over the years. Absolutely, you know, on the pitch, recruiting, membership, all those sorts of things. So what I can tell you is that, and I think that's part of the evidence of why we've had such a fantastic, overwhelming response in terms of renewals this season, is we have very much over the last 12 months been making an absolute concerted effort. The feedback we were getting, and you'll be all familiar with it, this sort of recurring feedback with things like the club's too impersonal, it's too corporate, it's not listening to us, those sorts of things. So we've gone absolutely out of our way to tip things on the head in terms of processes and those sort of things to try and fix that. We don't always get it right, and there's still room for improvement, and but that's certainly the aspiration. We need to get far better at that, and we'll continue to do that. But it has been a massive, significant part of the culture of the club is that everything we do is with members and fans in mind. So we acknowledge it, and this is part of the reason why, you know, why we're moving, is we need to take the club. We can't afford for the club to sit still and accept the way things currently are. So we have to be brave, we have to be bold, we have to take the club to the next level. Part of going to KCU, we think we'll do that. And if it means we're, you know, getting the best young talent, the next Daniel Lazanis and everything coming through, ultimately fans come to see the product, to see these guys do their stuff. And we think this sort of investment, what we're doing and making this sort of braver decision, will help do us and get us there. And it's all the 1,000 touch points of that it affects fandom and member support. It's how we engage, it's all those sorts of things. It's been, as I said, it's been really pleasing. We do a third-party research company does surveys our members on a regular basis to find, and we get a sense of what sentiment is like. That's always a bit iffy when you've just lost 4 in a row, because that overrides everything, right? So it's always fairly negative if you've just lost 4 in a row, but generally you get a fairly good sense of where people are at. And even though we've had very little content over the last 12 months in terms of games for fans to get to and actually be there physically, those sorts of things, you would have probably seen us, you may not have noticed, but there's been a bit more of a sense of feeling, a bit more change of tone of voice in terms of how there's a bit more sense of humour about the way we do things, engagement in terms of social and the way on our website. And so we you know, part of that is a continual learning for us, and we're trying to take that feedback on board and make those changes. But nothing's going to happen overnight. We need, the biggest thing is sustained success. And, you know, we made the grand final last year. W League has been the most successful, almost arguably one of the most successful teams in the country. The next step is to, you know, our club needs to be where Victory's been and where Sydney FC has been, is, you know, continually in that top level, and we're doing everything possible at every level to try and do that. But it's, you know, it's also, as Paddy said, it's about the way we play, the style we play, the type of players we sign up to deliver on that. So, but we recognise there's no quick fix, there's no shot in the arm, quick injection with that. It's long-term, sustainable success, exciting brand of football, attracting the right talent that are stars, appeal to the kids. It's about doing the right thing with our members, about engagement with the community. It's all those sorts of things. So, and I could reel off another 100, but it's absolutely our number one priority over it is to build that fan base and to get more people. And we think long term we'll get there. And we've certainly stuffed things up in the past, but we're doing everything possible to grow as fast as we can. But it's got to be done in a sustainable way. And we think some of these things, get the foundation right, the fundamentals right, we're confident we'll get there.
Awesome, thank you. Got a hand there, yep.
I think it's developing it. Obviously, we play against different formations week in, week out, different players, different systems. So it's having that advantage over the opponent. Okay, so if you see Manchester City, a lot of teams have worked City out, but somehow they come up with a different tactic or different rotation or something different that unbalances the opposition. That's what we're doing. So I won't give away too much for this weekend, but it's trying to always develop and improve the style that it started. Because if we stay still, it's too easy, and that's why it's so difficult, because teams can work you out over a year. So teams would have had a year of what we've done last season. So it's how can we get the competitive advantage this season, okay, and finding different ways to do that, and that's the hard thing. But credit to the players, what we've been working on, they've really been doing really well in that scenario. So this weekend you might see something maybe. No. So look, I'll tell you now, our formation will never change. Just so you know, our style will never change. If we're winning 10-0, if we're losing 10-0, it won't change. We are who we are because we believe in what we do. It's having little tweaks and maybe having a numerical advantage somewhere up the pitch that the opposition might not know or might not recognise or might not see. They're the little tweaks that we have in our system, and developing that week in, week out. Yeah.
I think from a player's point of view, I've been at this club 4 years now, but the biggest, plus has been the continued evolvement of where we've gone since Eric started. The base where we had last year, we're not resting on that. We're trying to, like Paddy said, really evolve it. And as a player who was under Eric, that's what's happened. It's about getting better and really growing on what we worked on last year. We haven't really had that in my time at the club. We've kind of had different managers. But it's really good for a player to really have that, when you come into training, to really have that base of what we've done, but really trying to add to it. And even, I'm still learning, and the youngest players to the oldest players are still learning about the system, the way we want to play. But I think it's really clear, and it's a credit to the club that we've started, from Eric, the style of football, and it's continued, and it's about getting better, not resting on that. Because I think if we did rest on it, we'd come up second best again. So that's been the message from this pre-season is, although last season was really good, it's about improving what we did last year, but also adding, those twists and turns that Paddy said. But also, I think one of the biggest things that everyone will see is probably without the ball, how aggressive we are, how intense we are, and I think that comes from the manager. His personality rubs off on us. He's a passionate, he's intense. No, I won't blame him for the yellow cards. But I think that's something we've really, among other facets of our game, but something that I've been really noticeable has been the way that we are pressing without the ball. It's been 2 games in. It will be more clearer, but as I said, it's been really enjoyable having started this football path under Eric and continuing with PK.
I'll just add something that Bigger didn't want to say. What we're going to be doing different this week, against West United, we're going to keep 11 players on the park for 90 minutes. So.
Fantastic. So we've got time for one more question. Hand up the very back went up straight away.
Sure. To be honest, the acquisition of Melbourne Heart to Melbourne City, you could not ask for, and this sounds like corporate speak, and it's so not, right? Those of us who are at Melbourne Heart and spent a lot of time setting it up, and we had really proud of some of the work we did in the community and some of the fundamentals we did at Melbourne Heart. We were concerned about what would happen when City came and took us over. They have been absolutely incredible in the approach is how it works, the relationship works is they say, you guys understand the local market, you're all hired because you understand the local market, you understand the A-League, you need to go and do what you need to do. However, what you can do is anytime you want, you can tap into the big engine room. And so some examples of that, when we wanted to look for a coach, they have a system which has every registered coach, professional coach in the world on a database. We can input, Michael can talk to this more, we can input this type of style and play we want. We can then also look in the salary band we're prepared to pay, and it can spit out names across the world that can deliver on this style of play, and then it also has the win-loss ratio, it has video, it has everything about any character flaws and those sorts of things. So the access to information and data for us to be able to make decisions, and as you know, that hasn't always worked. We have made some in the past, and part of that has also been when you get a partnership in that situation is understanding each other. So as much as we've learned from Manchester City, they've been learning from us. They've taken them time to understand the Australian marketplace. They've never operated in a salary cap environment before. It's a different world. So it's taken some time for them to understand where we sit and how we our situation here locally. But the opportunity, just going back to it, is they have some incredibly sharp people, whether it's in marketing or sponsorship or fan engagement, digital, social, all those sorts of things we get to tap into. I mean, the team behind you, you've got a big tall Nick Bicker there, as Director of our Marketing there. Head you on the phone with people in Manchester 3 or 4 nights a week. Chris Forrest, who heads up all our B2C, so it's and B2B, so it's partnerships and also the membership area. He would be on the phone also 2 or 3 times a week, and I would be myself for 5 or 6 times a week, multiple calls, and it's an incredible opportunity. So, but never once have they said you must do something this way, and that's been the beauty of the partnership. So I think we have the perfect situation. We get to operate freely as we think best, that we get to tap into, and certainly if we've got an issue or problem, we need some advice or some help, we get to do that. Michael gets to talk to Brian Marwood, who is also dealing with the Agueros and that sort of level calibre player, but he gets to, there's a lot of commonalities between football clubs around the world, and so you often have the same sorts of issues, and we get to tap into that IP, and it's incredible.
All right, thank you very much, Buzz. That was the last question for the evening. So first of all, thank you to everybody who showed up tonight and everybody who submitted questions before. We really do appreciate it. How about a hand for our lovely panel here? Right. Thank you very much to all you guys. We really appreciate you taking the time to interact with the members. It's fantastic. I think I speak for everybody when I say it's a great initiative to have these fan nights that we've had over the last couple of years. It's really good stuff. One announcement to make before we wrap up as well. So we found out about this about 5 minutes before we kicked it off, and that was that this weekend for the game on Saturday against Western United, unfortunately there will be no organised active support, and that's to comply with stadium and government COVID plans. That's also going to be taking place in estates in New South Wales and South Australia where we're at this point, but unfortunately that is going to be the case. So did you have any sort of final notes there, Brad? Or
Just to say, look, this is we're on phones on the hour with the leagues and trying to get information from all the state government and health officials about what's happening in terms of which teams can travel and what are the restrictions and that sort of thing. There is a high degree of nervousness about someone carrying a can, whether it's a stadium or it's government or state, for someone who's has COVID and is in a stadium situation. So everyone is hyper nervous, which we get and understand. But we also want to put on a football game where fans can be fans, and so that's the balance we're trying to do. This information sort of came to us literally 5 minutes before we arrived, so it's still very early days. We're still trying to work through that, but I think where it'll probably end up is I think we need to be able to demonstrate that we can put a game on safely and prove to government, prove to everyone we can do that, and then I think that hopefully the shackles come off and we can do things in a more relaxed manner. But that's the information we have at hand, and obviously we'll communicate through our normal channels as we know more information.
all right, fantastic. Thank you very much. So for everyone in attendance here, as you leave, please follow the directions of the staff at the door. Social distancing measures are in place, of course. But yeah, thank you everybody for coming out, and thank you for those that have watched on the live stream.